Welcome to the Modeling Lifestyle, where we celebrate how modelers have embraced their modeling and friendships as a lifestyle. We discuss how modeling can become a life passion and lead to lifelong friendships. The goal of the Modeling Lifestyle is to preserve the modeling and interests of leading modelers in the modeling industry. The Modeling Lifestyle is sponsored by NGMC, who believes that through bringing hobbyists together with both information and modeling, the hobby will grow stronger with more model builders than ever. NGMC, which started as Narrow Gauge Modeling Company, is focused in 1/4 inch scale across hobbies. NGMC is a market leader in 1/4 inch scale with a range of products from over 50 vendors. In 2021, NGMC became the largest reseller of out-of-production model paint in North America with over 9,000 bottles in stock. And now to Jim Kello, MMR, host of the Modeling Lifestyle.
I love the sound of a whistle.
Well, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. We think that you're going to really enjoy tonight's show. Our show introduces you not just to great modelers, but people who have made significant contributions to our hobby and made modeling a major part of their own lifestyles. I want to thank you so much to the viewers for being with us this night on our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling. And if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat function, and we'll get them answered as soon as we find out about them by the guest here this evening. All of our shows are run by volunteers, and we always can use more volunteers. We need help doing so many things for this show, you'd be amazed. So if you're interested in helping us a little bit, please let us know. We also have a Patreon account to cover the out-of-pocket costs for these shows. So if you enjoy it and feel so inclined, we hope that you'll make a small contribution to our New Tracks Modeling Patreon account. Lastly, I want to talk about something that we're really proud of. This is the first year we've done it, but we're offering a $1,000 scholarship to high school graduates who are going to continue their education in a STEAM program. That is a science, technology, engineering, art, or math in higher education. And we're looking for applicants. We thank you so very much for your contributions to the fund for us to be able to raise the money by the model railroading volunteers out there. And now we're looking for applicants. We want to make sure that we get the word out as broadly as we possibly can to all the model railroading young people that are high school graduates and that can benefit from our $1,000 scholarship. So if you know of a young person like that, then our website is newtracksmodeling.com/scholarship. And all of the information, including the application, is on that site. And you can file it electronically if you're so inclined. Well, tonight, we really have a special guest. Dan Wolschon is truly, he really lives the modeling lifestyle. He's not only a very talented, artistic, creative modeler, but he's a major promoter of our hobby. He's been so beneficial in helping so many other modelers learn about our hobby and improve their modeling skills. It's just a pleasure for us to introduce him to you and for you to be able to meet him personally tonight. So Dan, thank you so much for taking the time. We really appreciate you being with us this evening.
Well, thanks for having me on, Jim. I really appreciate it myself.
Well, that's great. Listen, let's start by, tell us a little bit about your background. Who are you?
Well, I'm Dan. Yep. It starts there. And if you want to go back to when I really started out, well, let's go to the model railroad because everybody knows how everybody else started out. It's about 5 years old. It's about 70 years ago. I got my train set for Christmas, and it wasn't a Lionel. It wasn't an American Flyer. It was actually an HO, and I was really impressed with the detail on the thing. As small as I was, I could see it. Springs in the trucks, the rivets, nut and bolt washers, the engraving on the wood. It took me away. And I was really, really impressed with that, even at 5 years old. Now, my dad took me to the hobby shop to get in January to get all the deals, inventory and all that. And I saw a catalog. It was a Revell train set. The old 060 tanker with the Omaha on the side, if anybody remembers that old thing. And it had a little chuff sound in it where that cam that went with the little box and the beads in it. And there it was on the cover coming down the track, almost like it is behind me here, and scenery all around it, just basically like it is here. And I just couldn't take my eyes off it. My dad bought me the catalog thinking I'm going to want anything else in there. I just looked at the cover and I said, I'm going to do that one day. I'm going to be there one day. And I'm still trying. And then, going through high school and everything else, everybody knows when you get your license, you meet ladies. Things get kind of put in the back pocket there. And then I went into the service, got out, and I was living with this lady who had an N scale train and set it up around the Christmas tree. And I was amazed at the detail there. I said, wow, I've never saw this before. And then I realized that it's not what I want, because it was too modern for me. The high cubes and the cushion cars and all that. And there was only one steam locomotive you could buy. It was available, actually. And I just, I had to go back into HO. And I did that for about, 2 years. And I got a job at AMT Corporation on model car kits. The 3-in-1, if you guys remember that, building those when you were a kid. And when I applied for the job, I built a little model, a module, I should say, diorama, 12 by 12, and had the engine on it. I bought a West Side Shay, and I did a building, and there it was, with the trees and much as it. They fell out of the application or my folder, and the guy says, "Well, what's this?" And I said, "Oh, geez, train stuff, and this is automotive." And he says, "Well, you build models?" And I says, "Well, yeah, I do that." And I said, "I've been doing it since, heck, I was a kid with my dad." And he wanted me to start the day before I was there. So eventually I ended up there, and I spent 10 years there. And it was a very good area. That's it, 1977. There I am. I was assigned to everything non-automotive. And if you look at the kits in front of me, they're all the monogram kits. It was my job to pull them out and see what kind of mold bases they had and what they fit in. So when we were doing airplanes and aircraft and stuff, that it would, what kind of mold base we need, what we needed to do. Excuse me. And one thing I noticed, though, these are all 1/48 scale. I noticed the figures, the monogram figures, to me, just, wow, they were really great. So when I was laying this all out, I draw around the part. And when it came down to the figures, well, I just popped them out and just put down figure on there, just wrote it down. And I cleaned them up a little bit, discharged them, if you may, took all the life-saving vest and everything else they had, and I kind of filed that down and civilized them, and or civilianized them, I guess is the word. And I started painting them, and I had an ON2 custom brass locomotive, the number 6, the Sandy River Rangy Lake locomotive that I had behind my desk. And I put the guy, it was Tibbetts, Colonel Tibbetts in a B-29. He's leaning out the window, looking down, and there's a guy on the ground pointing up. And you might see those guys around in some of these photos if we have them, but they've been around since 75. I've had them, the two guys, and it is something I did. Then I got I met a guy who was the vice president of the Detroit Model Railroad Club, and we used to go down and see him at the fairgrounds, the Michigan fairgrounds. Then all of a sudden they disappeared, didn't know where they went. And he said, "Well, we got a place up in Holly now, Holly, Michigan, the theater up there. Come on up and take a look." Well, I went up there on a Tuesday night, and I was pretty well impressed. The scenery was going around really nice. And so I got into the club, and I was there for about 15 years. And doing the scenery, the budget for the scenery was $300. This is back in the 70s, early 80s. $300 didn't buy a lot then. It buys even less now. But this thing's like 2,500 square feet. 3,500 square feet it was. And $300, it just got past the door. That's all. And so I kicked around there for a while, did a lot of, molds for cliffs and stuff. We were making molds off a piece of coal that my friend had, silicone. And it took about maybe 2 weeks to do that because you had to have everyone dry, and then you had to go and redo it again, and then dry, and then redo it and pull it off, and then we'd put them up on the wall. Well, you can't have them all the same, so we hit the coal load with a hammer, get another mold out of it, do it all over. So we just started doing all that, and it got to a point where I really wasn't doing what I really wanted to do. So I kind of fell away from it for a while, got into doing what I was doing, little modules and dioramas and all. And then it basically really got serious when the not Woodland Scenics, but was the Scenic Express started offering their super trees and stuff like you see in the background here. I mean, that was just too much for me. I just had to keep going into it. And I stayed in O scale because I knew my eyes were going to get bad one day. And well, here I am, trifocals now, instead of the regular focals. And when I do close-up work, I have to have the magnifying on. So, hey, I'm 75, almost 75. It just goes with the whole thing. So that's basically where I am now. And I did a couple modules, a module layout, showed it down at Gary Kohler's meet down in Salem, Ohio. But then I figured out by the way, behind me is what was on the module. And I built it too well because it didn't transport too well. It's just too fragile. And so I had to quit showing it. So basically it's sitting in my living room and I have fun with it. By the way, it's the train and me, the old story about the wife. Well, it's either me or the trains. Well, I still got the trains, so.
Yeah.
So here I am today. That's about sums it up in a nutshell.
But you've had quite a career becoming a modeler and a model railroader and so forth. What aspect of model railroading do you enjoy the most, Dan?
Well, I'll tell you, it's everything above the board, I guess. The scenery is what I really like doing. Building the buildings, laying the track. That's all hand-laid track in the background there, four spikes per tie. And just doing the scenery and just seeing, driving around looking and seeing what I can do, what I can duplicate. And that's a lot of fun. To me, it's the creative part of it.
Gotcha. Well, to a lot of people, you're such a well-known modeler, but to many of us, we've never really had a chance to talk with you and to see your modeling. So maybe we can see a few pictures here to see exactly how you do model. Now, how would you describe this?
Well, that's the train meet. Meet between two trains here, I guess, is kind of obvious. The locomotive, that's me on the pilot of the locomotive that Les scanned, that printed out as an engineer. And I already got one in a locomotive, but that one I figured he'd be out hanging out doing something, So I put him on the front of the locomotive for this photograph. And the locomotive is a 2664 tank that Alan Carroll scratch built. The laid out great Alan Carroll, Duke of Slash and Bash. And this is just set up to where, see the guy waving? That's the guy I'm talking about that goes back to 1975. Okay. He's a monogram guy. And the other guy is, Buffalo Landing. Great figures too. They don't make them anymore, but they're good. So all three of those figures to me are really detailed, really nice. And you'll probably see more of the locomotive behind me is another Alan Carroll kit bash. And I did the tender as a pseudo Vanderbilt tender, something different, just something different on it. So that's the train meet basically.
That's fantastic. Next. How about this one?
This one here, this is basically Osceola Station. The building of the station is scratch built. That was supposed to go on another railroad that I was working on. Unfortunately, the gentleman passed away. It was 2,500 square foot one with a 4-track Pennsy main meeting up with the On30, which is supposed to be originally East Broad Top, but we couldn't do East Broad Top any justice. So we just went with the freelance narrow gauge here. The building next to it, the shed, that's a Mullet River shed. Really, really nice built on it. I mean, it's laser cut. And between the two in the background, you can barely see is a 2-stall outhouse, but that's all weathered out. You got to have the outhouse there by the station. The guy sitting down is Buffalo Landing, and there's a couple other guys there at Buffalo Landing, and of course the guy in front of the shed next to the pallets, that's another scan of me. somehow I always make it. But the rail fan, he's always around anyways, right? The
Yep.
hurdle truck and the crane in the back is a BTS brass one. It's kind of cool. I just put that there it's in the back of the garage, and they kind of do their work back there in the summertime. Pretty nice. Like I say, the track is all hand laid, static grass. You've got the trees in the back, and the lamppost is an H.O. Walters lamppost. No, nothing done to it. It fit for that scene. It fits actually for the narrow gauge. I don't know how a guy in H.O. can see anything with those lights up there because they're pretty high up for him, but it works well right here.
That's a beautiful scene you created, no question about it.
Thank you.
Next.
There's the gas station. Joe's Garage. That's it. With the gas, and you got the old pump. I think that's from Wiseman. The Coke machine is Berkshire Valley. You got a couple Artista guys in there. The guy standing up next to the Coke machine, and the guy with his foot on the box. That's the Artista and the Buffalo Landing, and the guy with the dog is kind of got his leg up on. If you notice, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I don't know where he came from. I got so many little figures. I don't know where they came from. I can't remember them all from who made them. But the building is from Bar Mills. It was a wheelworks thing. I just turned it into a garage because it got the horses and the carriage went their way, and turned it into a gas station. And in the back, you got a Wiseman tractor with another Artista guy and a CHB guy bending down. Now that chain fall in the back is off of a 1/35 scale military detail kit. When you buy it, it's all plastic injection, put it together, and it worked out pretty well. The grass, just the tough center on there, the dirt. It's basically I made my own dirt on that. I just threw some paint together and mixed it up with some plaster, some ultracal or hydrocal, I should say, and then just pulverized it and got the different grades. And so I got stones and I got dirt and I got rocks out of the whole thing. Kind of easy way to do it.
Dan, your scenes are so creative. Do you have an art background?
No. This is a talent on loan from God, I guess, as Rush Limbaugh would say. I mean, I don't know how I did it. I just started doing it when I was a kid. I was scratch building stuff out of cardboard that came with t-shirt or shirts. Remember that?
Oh,
you get this thing, you got the pins, you got to pull out and everything else. And the cardboard, man, I would lay things out in blank and just put them together. That kind of impressed my dad. This is before I took mechanical drawing in high school, but that had nothing to do with this stuff. It was just, this is the straight line stuff. And I just had this talent to be an illustrator and to see things 3D, and which a lot of guys drafting can only see one view at a time. I'm really surprised at that because my boss came up to me one day when I was in a job shop. He goes, "What are you doing?" I made a little part out of cardboard and paper. And he says, "Where'd you get that from?" And I said, "Well, I made it." He goes, "Wait a minute, you made it? You can see all three of these views?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You see them all as one?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Hold on, roll up everything. I got something for you to do." And that's when I started building models in the industry, cardboard models for people that can't read prints. So that's the way it happened.
Well, I tell you, it's beautiful work. No question about it.
Thank you.
Well, listen, before we go any further, let's see this one. This is another one that we haven't seen.
This has a really kind of a bizarre beginning because it was a Bachmann 244, the Forney, and it took a dive off the big layout and the trailing wheel, it was broke. I couldn't put it back on. A little peg coming up broke off, and I couldn't figure out what to do here. So I just shortened the front end. I took the pilot off, cut down the pilot, and put the pilot truck on the back, shortened that up. And the cab is from Banta. That's a curly roof cab, and the domes are from Shapeways. I wish it was an inside frame, but it's an outside frame. But it just took a dive. It had no chance of doing anything with it. So that's what that ended up with. And I got it Wow Sound in it. I tell you, it's really a nice locomotive. Runs real nice. Real nice.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a beautiful model. No question about it.
Thank you.
Well, listen, before we see any more photos, let's introduce a couple of your friends that are with us this evening to maybe get another perspective about who Dan really is all about. So first, let me introduce Les Davis. Les, welcome. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you met Dan.
I think I met Dan at Steve Fisher's or Sherrell's. Dan
Steve
came in
Sherrell's, I think it was.
at Sherrell's, one of the January meets. And I had just gotten back into trains and modeling after having been away for a multiple number of years. My background is industrial design, and I started out in a model shop building models, much like Dan, except I got handed a batch of plexiglass and styrene and a set of plans and said, build it. So my background is very much similar to Dan's in that I have CAD work and I have CAD experience. I also have 3D animation experience, so I can draw in 3D and I do CAD work, which has lended us very well in Dan's particular case, in that he has become the person that we use all the time as figures in our railroad. It was Dan who suggested that we try to scan figures, and he wanted to put himself on the railroad. And we see him in multiple times. But yeah, I'm a 3D modeler. I'm recent of 3D printing. So what you see here is one of the scans that we wanted to do up at the Hudson meet. And you can see in the center picture there, the issues we have when we scan is sometimes things don't scan well, or we don't get them complete. And in this case, I walk all the way around Dan with a scanner, and then it takes probably about 40 hours of working and cleaning up to get a good figure usable for printing. And so what you see in the latest picture of Dan is the second scanning, and I'm using a different set of tools and a different printer to get that quality. But my 3D sculpture background from college really helps in being able to put ourselves in on the train. As a kid, you always, as Dan said, you always played with your train. I wanted to be in that train.
Yeah.
And having the figures enables us to put ourselves in that venue whenever we want to and however we want to. And being able to do this amount of scanning for us is really helpful. So you see the brown figure there is from a free program called Blender. It enables you can do a lot of other things. I use it mostly for sculpting. So I finish out the figure, I add detail that the scanner doesn't do. The gray figures are for doing the first set of work of cleaning up, in some cases, cutting Dan's arms off, putting a different hat on Dan, putting new shoes on Dan, because he always has bad shoes. And so I'm always trying to fix things. The good thing in this is that I can take the one figure and I can do different things with it. We can replace the hat and put his fedora on it, or we can put his bowler hat on it, or his flat hat on it. And so I can get 4 figures out of one figure, but I can also cut the arms off and reposition the arms as I want, or I can add something to it. The standing figure of Dan, not in the fedora, the gray one, there I often use, and I will put a 6-pack of beer in one hand and a tool chest in the other hand, and people seem to like the variations that we do. They're not Arista figures, they're not any of the other kinds of figures. They're real people, and it seems to be what people like to have is that if they know Dan, they'll come and say, what do you have of Dan? And I give and sell those figures of Dan.
That's really super creative, no question about it. My gosh.
Of course, the start of this was in 2 places. There was a desire to create a trench locomotive because my grandson had just graduated down at Benning,
Mhm.
and I wanted to create that locomotive. So I had access to a printer, and then later on I bought my own printer and did the design work. So I learned another CAD program and built this on top of a HO chassis, which eventually Bachmann picked up and created a locomotive. But the locomotive, the trench locomotive you see there, is all 3D printed with the exception of the frame and the chassis. The 2662 is all fabricated. So most of it is a Bachmann Forney metal cab, and then a fabricated tank, and other parts that are put on are brass. So it's a mix and match. I've done a lot of casting, so that really helps in building parts and pieces. I'm a little overly weathered version of Dan.
But you ought to be awfully proud of it, because that is just outstanding modeling, no question about it.
Well, where Dan is a lot of green grass and lots of color. Mine is just almost the exact opposite. Mine is arid. I like the colors of the browns and the that you might find out in the Southwest.
Yep.
The mining module here, some people have seen it before. There's a lot of red colors in it, and it has a lot of real natural, what I call Monument Valley red in it. And that was from Monument Valley. I brought a couple bags of it back and sifted it, so I have fine, medium, and coarse gravel on it. The buildings are a mix and match of scratch built buildings. There's kits in here. There's lots of figures in here. Probably if I was doing it today, there would be even more figures. They'd probably be all Hudson figures in here. So you get a chance to see some scratch built, you get some modified buildings, and then you get to see another version of a truck up there that I scratch built also. It's off of the Bachmann rail truck, and it's a new frame and scratch built crane, and it's off, and it's a small little 12 by 12 inch diorama. Lots of rock, lots of dirt, which makes that up. But then, go ahead. And this is a total 3D printed vehicle. It's called Matilda. It sits out in the Cumberson Toltec Railroad. I've been out there several times, and last time we were out, my wife and I actually measured it up so I could build it. And I drew this out in Fusion 360. Printed all the pieces with the exception of the dog and a couple of the detail parts on the inside. This is all figures and all capabilities that we did. It sits on a scratch built chassis. It has a single engine in it. It is at scale, at O scale. And so this is really a total effort to see how far I could take the entire project from design to finish.
That's beautiful. Really is. Outstanding.
And then you can see a accumulation of other things. The truck up on the upper left-hand corner is a goose body, and it replaced with a die-cast truck and a combine. The lower right, lower left-hand is Matilda, in its real natural setting, so you can see the kind of vehicle it is. Mine's similar. It's pretty much a pretty good representation. The middle upper picture is actually a rail car I have a picture of, and it's built over a trolley car chassis, and it's almost every bit of it's fabricated. From the seats are made and modified and made castings. The cowling for the engine is two cowlings, but it was a casting. It came out real well. And it's even got a rag top, like the one on the upper right hand corner, is a Bachmann rail truck modified with a rag top and seats and figures from Arista also. I'm currently revisiting the center lower picture, which is at Nevada Railroad. And I have made most of the parts. I haven't finished the model. It's going to get revisited and printed this year and finished. It'll be 95% all printed. And I'm just waiting for some information back from them. And the last picture, on the lower right, is a rail truck again with a different body on it and as much detail as I could throw at the problem. Those that know me know that I probably overly detail anything as well as junk it up. So there's lots of rust and dust.
Well, that's some beautiful modeling.
Thank you.
Well, next up, let me introduce Alan Littlefield. Alan, thank you so much for being with us tonight. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you met Dan.
Well, I think I first met Dan at the Ohio meet, Gary Kohler. The thing was, it was like we just instantly liked each other. We meshed gears, same sense of humor, attention to detail in what we're doing, and we just went from there. Then again, we got together at Kimberton, and then later on, he started coming to the Mid-Hudson meets with us, and it's just been friends ever since, just like with Les. I mean, and Dan, you are an artist, and so is Les. Whether you know it or not, you both are artists.
I won't admit
Can't
it.
get around it. You're doing three-dimensional paintings or artwork, and you're looking back in things that interested you and bringing that expression forward. I think a lot of artists or model railroaders are artists, but they don't quite want to acknowledge it because I think they're afraid they're going to get criticized by somebody for saying such a thing. Like, oh, it's just a train. What are you talking about? Hey, it's art. Believe me. And because I do art professionally as my living, so it's they're good. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with Alan. Dan, that's why I asked you, if you had an artist background, because I look at some of the models that you guys have built, and it is absolutely art, in my opinion. I mean, it is the creativity, the imagination. There's no doubt about it. That is just a piece of sculpture that you've created. Well, Alan, tell us a little bit about this. You created this one.
Well, this is my latest model using the HO chassis again, the 060 Bachmann switcher. And I had a friend who milled down the sides of the motor so it would fit in a tank. Now that boiler and smoke box front is one of Dylan's offerings. It's about the same size as the Grant line kit for the little porter that Grant used to put out in 1/4 inch scale. The domes I've had, I think they were Don Kralik from back when he was doing things. Stack was one I had in the stash. Cab is from a porter, and the little 4-wheel tender is a Gary Gresham unit that I gussied up put a little water tank in it, so that thing had to get water from somewhere. Since it's not a saddle tank, it had to have something on it. But that's my latest model, and most of my models were seen here when you interviewed me when the first time we did this. And I noticed that some of the models in the beginning of your presentation are a lot of my back models. So I have been represented here. But then I want to just go back to the first model that I also have submitted for this. There it is. That was back in the 80s. And that got in the Gazette and a little write-up. And that's the first one I did. And it kind of stuck with me, the On30. It just seemed to suit me. It was just enough detail, and yet there are little small locos, almost like S scale. And they were fun to build. And I'm mainly a model builder, where both Leston and Dan are all around modelers. They do scenery, dioramas, everything else. Because I kind of just limit myself to models. But those guys are full scale, all around models, not unlike yourself.
Wait a second. Your engines are sceneries too. So
That's right.
Be that as it may. I'll have to do something with scenery just to show you all I can do it. Probably people think I can't, but I can.
Challenge on.
Yeah. It
Okay.
never ends.
And another thing about Dan and I share, I took vocational drafting in high school. That was my thing with the drawing, because I did the same thing with the shirt cardboard. You know, when it was, you had no money to buy anything. So you did what you could with what you've had. And like the composition, that thin brown composition on some of the books you got, or the little tablets you got, they were cut up and made great little shingles. So I used to do a lot of that. And then I did all my weathering and painting then with oil paint. Now it's mostly all acrylics. But, you know, we share a lot of backgrounds with the love of trains. Plus, when I was growing up, I was always around railroads. Like I crossed country with my mother during World War II. We left Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, and ended up in Tacoma, Washington by rail during World War II. Train was loaded with soldiers, sailors, airmen. And I was just a little kid then in the sleeping compartment. But trains have always been really dear to me and an influence of my father. So we all share similar backgrounds in various ways. But, you know, both of these guys are top notch. They're good to be friends. Good modelers.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, a third person was supposed to be with us tonight, John Weigel. But John's got a family issue that he had to deal with and couldn't make it tonight. But he sends his best wishes, Dan, and is so sorry that he can't join this party. You know, a lot of talented modelers think about becoming model railroad manufacturers, custom builders. What do you think the pros and cons of that kind of thing is? I mean, is it something modelers should do, or just stay modelers in the hobby?
Never should get into it, because you never get your work done. All of your friends always have something for you to do for them. Ooh. Yes.
I have yet to give you my list there, Les.
Well, that's true. You know,
it's getting longer, though. You know,
I do a lot of work for my friends, and I enjoy doing the work for my friends. And if that puts them one step further in their project, and being able to have a part that they can't get any other place, or something like having a Dan figure in the back of their caboose, or a Dan engineer, or a Littlefield engineer, or whatever, that's part of the pleasure of working with my friends. Do I enjoy making 30 figures or whatever? Not really. I don't enjoy the production piece of it. I enjoy helping my friends and helping them be better modelers. That's the goal here, is to improve the quality of the modeling. But do I want to become and have a business at it? Absolutely not. If it pays for my resin, that's okay too. I happen to be lucky and have a couple instances where Bachman picked up a trench locomotive that I did, and it disappeared for 2 years or 3 years, and finally came out in production. And it was a dream come true, guys. It really was. That trench locomotive was a dream come true. It was the hardest secret to hold from my friends, was that this was happening. And so, but my main goal is to have fun. When Dan said, "Hey, I'll get scanned. Can you do anything with it, Les?" Raised my hand and said, "We'll figure it out."
Yeah.
And literally went out and bought my own scanner so that we could do it ourselves and we didn't have to depend upon someone to do it. And I had a printer at that time. And so getting into figures was a logical step to having better quality figures. You can see the Arista figures and all the other ones. Our figures are by far as good, if not better, than most of them, with the exception of the ones in Europe and England. So
Well, this
You know, when that whole scanning thing started, it all started with a trip to the county fair out here where I'm at, an old time county fair, and they had part of the old part of towns around, almost like, I don't know if you're familiar with Greenfield Village. They have them from around the country. They disassemble them and assemble them down in Dearborn. But these are just around Livingston County. And there was this old barber shop there, and I was with my lady friend there. I said, "Hey, give me a picture standing in the doorway here." And I posted it on Facebook, and that's when Alan came out and said, "Hey, Les, can you do this?" And Les said, "Yeah, if Dan gets scanned." Well, then that's where the story starts. I started calling around, and this one, being around the Detroit area, we got all this technology floating around everywhere. So all you got to do is start calling. Well, one I called up, and they said, "Well, you got to have at least 4 hours here." And I'm going, "Geez, I only want one position." And if I get 4 hours, I start thinking, I'm going, man, I could put the Kama Sutra out of business if I got 4 hours on a scanner, But it was too much. It was way too much. So I went down, got another one, and it was like $150 it was to get scanned in about half hour, I think. But the funny part about this is the couple that I went there is upstairs, little room like in a downtown Ann Arbor. Going to Ann Arbor to me is I have to come back and take an alcohol wash, a bath after that. But going up there, and they couldn't scan me all the way. For some reason, it wouldn't scan, so they scanned me halfway, bottom half and then the top half. Well, okay, that's fine, but to put it together, it took, 2 weeks, Les, was it, before you got it?
Yeah. Yeah, it was about 2 weeks before we got the
for $150. I think they lost their shirt on this one. I mean, there was a lot of work that went into this thing. I know that for a fact, and that's how it all started. With me just getting a picture in the doorway, and Alan saying, "Hey, Les, can you do this?" And Les says, "Well, if you get scanned, then that's the rest of the story." Now you know the rest of the story.
Challenge accepted. Hold my beer.
Oh yeah. So I mean, if somebody else did it first, I would be just as happy as I was. To just being here. It was just good to see it being done for people that we know. And it's the whole idea is to put people on your layout that Well, why do you call him that? Because that's him. Or that's the person. It's a real person. Wow. And a lot of this stuff it's just great. I've got less than a couple photos that I've got. He's on the back of a combine in a video I have, and somebody mentioned man, I thought that barrel chested guy was looking at me, and it's just the way that the light was hitting him. It was just perfect, And this is the fun part. It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion, basically. The whole hobby is that way because you create that, and you just have fun, especially when you start putting it in photographs. People look at that forever. That photograph will be around until the digital age is gone. But when you see something, you're only there for a short period of time, and it's hard to remember everything how it is. But one photo, like with Alan's models, man, you start looking at that thing, you start seeing how detailed it is. Where you see it in person, you can appreciate it, but you can't study it that much to remember it, because you can always go back and look at that photo. And that's what really matters on a lot of it. That's why I like taking pictures to make it look good. I don't know how many photographs, like that one picture we had when Les was doing that, the figures of me, that one in the corner, the latest one, that must have taken 10 shots to do that with my stupid smartphone. and it's just it came out right. As long as it's just a challenge on that part too, So, but that's how it all started. It all started in that barber shop, and I give my lady friend credit. You started all this stuff. I just tell her it's your fault.
I just finished it. And speaking of taking pictures, when I was working in the model shop in the early 70s, we used to take pictures of all of the work that we did, not just to record it, but we actually used the camera and the pictures to validate what we were seeing and to fix the errors, and the quality of the modeling work that I had to do had to be spot on. So there wasn't something in that model that wasn't in the work that we was asked to do. We didn't put an extra can or an extra tree in or an extra person in. And that camera view was what we used to validate that model.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this, guys.
Hammer is murder, because you can pull that picture in and get a close up and you see every little piece of
dirt and lint and
you thought you'd filled, but you got away with, and then the mistake that you turned into a little rust area. That's it's great, but it's a real good sobering effect to look at that thing that close and go, okay, where can we improve? What have we done? Where are we going here? But but I have to say this whole move with the figures now that we've gotten into is a big deal in the hobby. And along with the building, like a lot of the things I say, I could have done it without you, Les. A lot of these models I've built have been Les's tank prints and this, that, and the other thing. And they proved to be fantastic. And I have people calling me, can I get them from him? And I said, well, we'll see. I'll ask him, we'll see if he'll get you somebody does here and there. But people do want things. Now there's a fellow that occasionally shows up at these different meets that I recommend you give some distance to, because he's erratic and you never know. He drinks beer. And
been known to drink beer, adult beverages.
But I'll let him or one of you guys explain what this is all about.
You're up, Dan.
Well, okay. I had to do something different. It's a 10-hour drive for me to go out to New Hudson meet out there. And it's I leave in the morning, and I think about a lot of things when I'm driving by myself. Sometimes I get in an argument with myself and I got to pull over and I got to start explaining to myself that, you got to stop this and you got to go on and do things. So I think of things to do, and I want to show up a lot of times. I try to show up doing something different. Well, this is one right here. The gorilla mask and the gloves. We have a dinner at the night before on Thursday night, and there's about 15 people or so, maybe 20, all depends. And I showed up at this restaurant in the gorilla suit or the gorilla mask and the gloves and a sport coat and a derby. I figured you can't go wrong with a derby and a gorilla mask. Ernie Kovacs did a real good job with the Nairobi trio, and I figured, hey, why not? But being in New York, nobody noticed. Nobody said anything until I got to the table where everybody was at. And then it was a different story. But everybody else in the restaurant, he just looked, okay, so what? The guy in a gorilla mask, what are you going to do? So this is at the show. And this is sitting down looking at Les's 3D prints. He's got it all out there. You can pick them up, or you can look at them, you can buy, you can order them, or whatever it is. So that's what I went ape over this. Let's put it that way. The best way I could put it. So, yeah, that's just the meet is a lot of fun. It's if you don't have fun there, it's your own fault, as far as I'm concerned. It's just it's worth the 10-hour drive one way. I'll guarantee you that. And I try to do it as much as I can. There's a couple times when life got in the way, but oh well, it happens with all of us, and it's accepted. But yeah, I'm looking forward to April. I really am. It's coming up.
Let me ask you this, guys. What do you see as the future of model building in your particular scale, in the hobby that you all love so much? Where is model building going in the future in that hobby?
Just on me?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Well, I've seen it go from Campbell kits, where the die cut HO Campbell kits, the die cut windows, and boards you got to cut. You had to cut all this stuff out. And that was almost like scratch building. It got me tuned into a lot of ways of building things and I always change them. I never build them the same way the kits do, because that's the way. To me, it's too much production of it. And then somebody else has got the kit, and you look at it, it's better than yours, and you go, so you got to change it a little bit, And going through that, and then the laser cut came in. I thought that was very good, very good. It really kind of helps things, but then again, you're limited to where the windows are and everything else. You got to build it that way. Where there was a company, Steam Era Structures. I don't know if guys ever got into those.
Yeah.
You got a box and you got a 1/4" scale plan, plan view, side view, front
And
view, all the views around
roll of wood.
Yeah, and you had to cut everything out. I mean, you got the wood for the fascia and stuff, and it was like 2x12, and then there's a 4x8 or whatever it was, and it just had to go up into the crown molding. You had to put those all in, which is a real good way of learning how to scratch build and build what the materials you need. But the laser cut, man, that's if you can't put one of those together, tab and slot. Whew, I don't know, go back to collecting coins, I guess. I don't know, but it's easy to do, but you just got to take your time. It's all about patience and everything. And now this 3D printing, I think that's a real leap towards greatness, because there's so many things I've seen coming out there that's just unbelievable. Things you can't scratch build, small details. The figures, that's one right there. How are you going to do that unless you're a sculptor? And I couldn't do that small. I mean, at AMT, we did it to get a 48 scale. It was 10 times bigger, and they pantographed it down into the mold. And, that's the only way you get the detail out of it, is to build it bigger and then reduce it down. But this 3D printing right now is just, it's phenomenal. It's really good. I think it's going to take things a little bit farther. People will be able to, if they really want to get into it, there's a lot more things available out there. Shapeways, go on there and find out what they got going. There's a lot of stuff they got that you can only think of. And if you go through there, you can start putting the parts together, and you're going to have a good model. There's just no doubt about it. And then with Les doing his stuff, excuse me, it might take a little bit for him to do it, because he's backlogged on stuff. I know that. That's why I'm waiting for him to get nothing going. And he said, well, I'm bored. I'm going to give him my list. It'll keep him busy for another 10 years if we're still around. Les is 3 days older than me, by the way. Okay. Yeah. I got to say, we're twins.
I might
but
add.
Mother loved him best.
I'll add one thing to that. Recently, I've been working on a pretty close to prototype looking model of a East Broadtop wood hopper. They had 2 plates on there for your ratchet. So once the coal was dumped, you could wind up the doors to hold the next load. Well, I knew I'd have a bear trying to scratch build this thing and fabricate it somehow. So I sent a picture of the plans to Les, gave him the size. Next thing I know, a week later, here come a little rack of these printed plates. Then I said, oh, I forgot to tell you, because I just realized it by looking.
One for the other side.
One for the other side. Because they were a mirror image. They weren't true the same way. There was one this way and one this way. So another week later, in come the bright plates. They really, really made a difference on the model. I wish I had featured a picture of that for this thing tonight. But you'll all see it in April, you guys that come here. And you got to get up from Florida and see us sometime there, because we got a good thing going here. But anyway, that's the kind of thing that goes on between us that makes our model so much better than what you would find. And now I'm sure Ed Fillions is going to want to get in touch with Les. Can I get something to include in my model kit?
Would not be difficult. I'm worried a little bit about the future modelers, and part of that is because the vintage that you see of the 3 of us we've all been through the same issue. We took, made 3D drawings or drawings in mechanical drawing in either 8th grade or 9th grade or maybe early high school. We learned to draw and build things that way. We sat in the basement and made model cars. We scratch made things. We had to do things the hard way. And I'm not sure that aside from a kit that there's a lot of guys our age will build that way unless they have the backgrounds. And I'm not convinced that there's a lot of teenagers. There are some very good teenage modelers, but I'm not convinced that they're out there that are willing and have the skills to read a drawing or to see a picture and say, I want to build that and take the dive in to do that. So
Even
I'm a
the
little
patience
worried
to
about
do it.
that. And the patience to do
Patience,
that.
big
Absolutely.
patience, big part of it right there, you know.
Yeah.
You got to know when to put it down and come back on it instead of screwing it all up.
My mom
I've
would
been through that many times.
My mom would let me buy a model kit, usually a military model. And because I didn't need to be outside that much, or she wanted me to settle because I was always bopping around doing something. And so she would set me down in front of a kit and I would sit and build it for hours. So part of that learning to sit and work and read directions and build things was one of the early learning things that I had. And that would include painting and finish work and that sort of effort. It's an early issue.
You see a lot of people our age, that's how we grew up. That was part of our upbringing. That was part of the education that we all had in common. And we knew each other had the same common thing. We all went to our dads and wanted the cardboard out of the shirt. I mean, that was just daily life. That wasn't anything special. We all went through that. Nowadays, I'm not so sure that the kids and even the kids that are in their 30s, I'm not sure that they ever had that experience. I can look at my own son, who's now 40 years old, and and I used to take him. We'd go to every train show and everything that I could find, and he was always there. Is he interested in the hobby today? No, not at all, because he really never had the same experience as I did. It was just I'm going with dad kind of thing, rather than I really want to do this. I really want to go do this.
Well, let's face it, when we were growing up, there was nothing on TV. TV was in its infancy, and you went out and played. You did something. You kept going. And on a rainy day, you built the models, or you did this, or you did that, whenever you wanted to. There's times my mother used to throw me out of the house, saying, "Get outside." You got to get a tan. You got to get some sunlight, man. And I was always down in the basement. That's where most of the kids are now.
And I was flying that airplane that I spent all winter building.
Absolutely.
And I crashed it the first time. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. And some of the games that we used to play, I don't know whether these games where you played. We used to play kick the can. Well,
there you go. Yeah.
We didn't have to buy the can. There was cans of garbage. So we just went and got the can and we played kick the can. Or stickball. The
stickball is another one. Yeah.
The stickball was a broom, and the ball was a cork that we had tape wrapped around it, so it would curve and do weird things when you threw it to the hitter.
That was half the fun.
But we made all of that stuff. It wasn't stuff that we went to the store to buy. Rubber guns. Remember fighting with rubber guns?
Yeah.
Made them.
But we made our own. And where did we get the rubber? From a spare tire. I mean, it was just, it was the inner tube that we cut pieces.
The inner tube, which they don't have anymore, by the way. They're
exactly.
gone.
And I saw an ad the other day for rubber guns. They're manufacturing now, and the kids can buy rubber guns. Well, we used to make our own kind of thing for that.
A ruler. Have them stretch along the ruler. Yep.
Well, in automotive design, we used to do that all the time. Rubber band fights were going around. It was just the stress of the job, And yeah, the worst thing you could do is get a big red. I mean, the big
That's
red was
right.
it was probably about this long. You could stretch it back about 20 feet. And when you got hit by one of those, you knew it, you know, I mean, but that was the game.
Absolutely.
That's what is all part of growing up, because
Yeah.
we were all that age. We all grew up that way, you know, and the imagination is there. You have to have it. Creativity, imagination, you know. And
My
now everybody's on the game. They're gaming on TV. And you know, there's it's PlayStation, I guess it is now. I wouldn't
Yep.
know. I would never have played those things.
Yeah, my short time of when I was living in New York City, right around the end of World War II. Yeah, I am that old. We used to make a scooter. You took a 2x4 and a roller skate.
Yep.
Roller skate, you broke it in half, put one on each end. You got a little orange crate for the front would be your grill with a handle. You put a tin can with a candle in it for your headlight.
Yeah.
And down the street on your scooter.
Yeah.
Right. That's right. And put skull and bones. You cut stuff out of.
Oh yeah.
You had skull and bones on them and everything. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember a neighbor came over and complained about the wheels off her baby buggy were gone. I didn't do it. No, who did it? I don't know. But we had them, but nobody knew where they came from, you know.
Well, you know, when I was younger, the train shows were extremely important to me. I met a lot of people. It was friendships that I developed and so forth. But now with the pandemic and with the higher cost now of gasoline and just getting from point A to point B, what do you see the future of train shows? Are they going to go like the local hobby shops have gone and just not be there anymore? And if so, what takes their place then for the hobby?
You know, what I kind of think of is that it has to do with the hobby too. You know, how many people are going to go to the show? This weekend, there's a big show down in town, you know, the Great American Train, whatever that is, you know, the mammoth one that floats around the country. And do I want to go to it? Well, I don't know. Do they have anything there I need? You know, it's so big. And what is it? A lot of H.O., Lionel.
It's a shopping store.
Yeah. And as far as that goes, people go in there. I don't know how the vendors do on a lot of these things, but people go in there with their kids just to show them around, something to do, you know, like going to the zoo or something, you know, and it's just, as much as the hobby lasts is how much the train shows are going to last. The hobby shops themselves, I think the internet took that over. You know, you can sit down and you can have a shop in your basement or have a building and nobody goes into it. P&D Hobby is one of those. Pat died a while back and his kids took over. They couldn't handle the store, but they're still online. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know how is it going to go? All depends on how the hobby goes. Not a lot of young people go into these meets like they were when we were young.
Good thing,
you know, in our 30s, we were all, I mean, everybody was there. You met people, you know, 5, 6 years younger or older than you, and we're all old now, but there's nobody young like that. A few of them, but not that many.
Yeah. Good thing is we're seeing a resurgence in tourist railroads.
Yeah.
And
that's another too. Yeah.
In our own group of Hudson friends, we now have Hudson in Exile at ABT. Art Bloomer is coming up with a New Jersey site. There are these small gatherings where talent gets together, but we still see the Timonium, we still see the Amherst show, where we go and buy the supplies we need and do those sorts of things. Is it the mom and pop store? No, not anymore. Although Hickory has one. Hickory has a great one.
There's a few around, but not like they used to be. You know, that's the whole thing. There's used to, you know, not for me, I think the closest one was like 45 miles away, one way, you know. And before it was just, you know, I get on my bike and ride down there, a couple blocks down there. Not anymore though. You know, it's like you're saying, it's every town had one, but not now. So
well, and then I hear about show. You all have mentioned it here several times. You call it the Hudson Show. Well, it's really the one that Alan puts on twice a year. But I hear it described more as a gathering of friends than a train show. And it seems to me that's that kind of get together, if you will, is what, Dan, you're driving 10 hours one way to get to. Other people may not have to go that far, but
I do 6.5.
but they're committed to every April and October. They just want to know where to be. And
That's right.
Alan tells them where and when to be, and everybody gets together. And yeah, there's some buying and selling that goes on, but basically it's a gathering.
Right. Well, it's also like a workshop too, because you got guys like Dave Wingrove will be there building an engine or something, and you sit there and watch him do this. You got Les with his 3D stuff and it's scanning and everything. And then you got Alan doing his weathering things on the wood or whatever, and I throw in some of those things too. And it's just everybody doing stuff. And there's some vendors show up there, but like John Weigel says, I don't care if I sell anything. I just want to be with the guys. And that's half the fun of it right there, because you know everybody for 20 years, and the new guys that come in, you seem like they think they knew us for 20 years too, because that's the way we treat everybody.
And all of a sudden,
you're here, you're there.
All of a sudden, there's a group hanging around someone because you're discussing how to solve a problem and get something done or do something different.
That's another one. Yep.
Or work out an issue, and that's where this gathering happens, and the conversation about what we're doing or why we're building something or how to fix something.
Gotcha.
The up and coming shows too that Al Judy's putting on are very important, because he's concentrating on, it's kind of blend of what we do at Med Hudson and focusing on like O scale.
Yeah.
So you're coming and you're going to find any vendor there, they're going to have O scale things. So you'll probably be able to find something you need. It's like I stopped going to the big Amherst show because it's too big and it's too crowded to even look through some of the things people are offering. And you're just pushing along like a C at an airport waiting to get on your flight.
Yeah.
You have no time to talk to anyone. Kimberton was the closest thing that I thought you could really get around. Like
that was fun.
That's when Wolschon and I started drinking beer together. In fact, that's not too many.
Haven't stopped.
Count at one time. He got mad at me, I think.
This is apple juice, by the way. Okay. Call it on. It's apple juice.
Got that. But those kind of shows now are the ones that you're getting a lot of concentration of more serious modelers and younger people that do come in that want to become serious modelers. They see what's going on and say, oh, wow, I didn't know you could do that. Maybe I can do that. And that's how it starts. But our group started because I wasn't getting anything out of the other shows. And I thought, man, maybe if we just get together and talk about what we're doing and meet each other, and it started happening, and it just grew into what it is. And now it's starting to expand, like through what Al's doing with his great shows there in June. And then we have our little spring off shows like the exile modeling get together in Orbisonia, and then what Art Bloomer is doing. And that's where the energy seems to be right now. Where that will move in time, we don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But there is this energy that's still moving and it's still alive. Now, we hope we all last a little longer, especially me.
Oh, yeah.
You see more happen, but I think it's pretty good that way. But, we've heard a lot of doom and gloom about everything, and we still soldier on.
Yep, I got you.
You're not going to stop us. You're not going to stop us, as far as I'm concerned. Not until they bury us, anyways.
Well, let's take a look at some more of Dan's photos and the modeling that he's accomplished, because he's done some beautiful stuff here. Dan, tell us about this one.
Well, once again, this is Osceola Station. Why, I don't know, but that's the name of it. That's that scratch built. Here we got a train now. See the guys on the platform there? They're just waiting for the train to show up. And this is this locomotive here was scratch built by or kit batched by Gary Cerrone off MDC 280 old time mechanism. Did a great job. Kind of looks like the Lawndale engine. And I just like the way it looks. I mean, I bought it off of John Weigel, and 2 years later, so I wish I would never sold that. You know? But that's it. And it's a little jerky here, but that's just going through the technology of what it is, the video. And this car here was built by Alan Carroll. He shortened it and lowered it and levered it. And see, all those guys on the platform got on the train. I don't know if you noticed that. You know, I had to point that out. That's half the fun of it too. The water tank is scratch built out of PCP and 5mm 0.05 styrene. The grass and everything else, that's all from Scenic Express. And how you do it, I don't know. It doesn't. Well, let me add this. Let me try that. Oh, hey, that comes out looking. No, the leaves look good on there. Okay, we'll just leave them on there then. You know. In the backdrop, I just kind of threw some paint together on that, just kind of giving us some cloud effect instead of looking at the wall. And it adds to it a little bit more too. You know, and just it's only 2 feet wide, by the way. It's 2 foot by 4 foot modules. And I don't know, where it ends is just to the right. It's out of the picture where this one ends, and it goes into what I call Sheets Creek, the little creek that I got running through there with the trestle. Got to have some water going through it, you know. So yeah, this is now. Here we go. This is coming through the scenery up to Sheets Creek. You see the trestle on the right, but I always thought that, you know, everybody's always has scenery, and you see on trains everywhere, right? There's nothing in front. I like to see it run through scenery, and this is about the best way I could do it. The reason why there's a gap in there is because there's a switch stand there, and there's no need to be covering that up if you want to throw it. It's manual, the ground throw, and it comes out pretty good. You know, I mean, it gives you that impression it's deeper than it really is. You can see the edge of the module in black in front there in the lower left. But the creek is over on the right, and that was done in a pretty unique way too. Well, not really unique. It's been done before. Everything I've done is I haven't really come up with a lot of stuff new, except just how it's been put together. It's like writing a book. You know, all the letters are there, all the words are there. It's how you put it all together is how it comes out. So that's basically my philosophy on that. I don't create the products. You know, I ain't got time for that. I'm building models. You know. That's why I would never get into a business, because if I did, I'd lose my hobby, you know, and that's it. You know, I like to build. I don't like to mass produce things. That's why I got into design, automotive design, because it was one off. You didn't have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. I get bored doing that. Yeah, the tree you see sticking out, there's an old branch I found in the yard one day. I said, hey, this looks pretty good. There was no bark on it. It's an old dead tree. It's just hanging there, you know, waiting to fall over the wind or so. Maybe a raccoon will crawl up on it, and too much weight, and down it goes, and it'll be across the stream then, and that'll be about it. You got another one here, Phil?
There you go.
Okay, this is about the same spot but different angle. Now this is one of my studies. I had it. Okay, how's this going to look? You know, and then I'm looking at this thing, and yeah, okay, the colors look pretty good. There's something else. Oh, I need a milepost in there. Let's put that milepost in there. So that's nothing but I think it's an 1/8 inch square, and then just on the sanding disc is 4 sides, so pointed up so the birds don't sit on it or water doesn't get in it or whatever reason it is. And then there's a little, not even a Sharpie, smaller than that, one of those little rapidograph type pens. Put the miles on there, 5.0. Why? I don't know. Just a good number, I guess. And the fence posts are basically another twig that I found around this. I'm always going this time of year now, coming up in the spring. I go clean up people's yards. You know, what do you want to do? I just want to do that. I find this stuff. You know, you find some really good stuff that you can use for logs and lumber, and you just got to look for it. That's all.
Let me say
a little bit of the. Well, here we go. That's what's behind me now. Yeah, that's looking over towards Sheets Creek, and there's the switch that you saw. The camera was to the right on a right angle, looking in on it. So that's basically where this is at, and it's the siding that goes in front of the water tank. The main line's on the right, and on the right there is a stub siding that I couldn't figure out what to do with the scenery, and I said, well, I don't want to go all the way across, you know, and I can't get to anything. So that's just a little area there. And I just built this little bumper and stuck it up against the foam. and where the track ended, and that was it. And then started putting weeds around it, and here we go. It looks like the telephone pole there on the left, or the telegraph pole. It's got weeds. It's got the vines growing up. You see that everywhere, but you don't see it modeled too much. Few people will do it, but you don't see it often. And that's nothing but just spreading some of that Scenic Express stuff out and getting some cheap hairspray, spritzing on there, and it stays. Now, if you remember that stuff back in the 60s, the ladies used to have their ratted out hair. You could throw a piece of gum at it and it bounce off. That's the kind of hairspray you got to have. You can't have that stuff that washes out. You got to have that acrylic stuff or whatever they call it. Maybe it's enamel. I don't know what, but it's the cheapest stuff you can buy at CVS or Walgreens or anything like that. And I buy 3 or 4 cans at a time. People just look at me. The ladies look at me going, I don't want to, why do you want to know what I'm using this for? And I have to show them a picture of what I do. They still don't believe me. I don't know. But that's looking down the road.
Let me interject something, Dan.
Yeah.
If you had painted this with that composition and everything, would it be considered art?
Well, yeah, I guess it would.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
There you
I'd
go.
have to agree with you on that, but yeah, it's
The composition here that's exquisite, and there's a melancholy to that distance being empty.
Yep.
yeah, that's another thing too. I just laid that I call them stupid smartphones because they really make me stupid. It just laid it on the track, and let me take a picture. See how this looks. I had that backdrop. I painted it's a piece of drywall that I used as basically a practice thing when I painted this. My friend's 2,500 square foot, 40 by 60 it was, all the way around like that. And that was just to get the idea of how I could do this. And I kept it, and it kind of blends in really well. It gets, if I took it away, you'd see the window there, and then the TV. It's just not model railroading. You take a picture. I want people to look at this and just look at it, and it's not going to change. So I like to have everything as probably as best as I can, and I try to crop out some of that the out of focus stuff that is too close to the camera. But sometimes it's
I
good,
like that. I like that real close stuff, and it's out of focus because it leads you.
Well, that's another thing too. Yeah, that's another thing too. Is a lot of people take pictures. We used to call them helicopter views, but now they call them drone views. I like to get everything I've seen has always been like 6'2" off the ground. That's how tall I am. I'm a little bit shorter than that, maybe 5'9". That's where my eyeballs are at. But that's about the size where I want to see these it's a model railroad. And one of the bigger compliments I like getting is, "Oh, that's nice." I say, "Well, I kind of put that together." What do you mean? Well, that's not that big. The tracks are this wide. It's in my living room. They go, "What?" That's what it is. So, Alan, I guess you're right. On saying what you're saying, it could be a work of art, but that's a good compliment when people go, "Man, I thought it was real." I think that is I've reached the goal on a photograph of what I've done when people think it's real, and I just like it because it looks really nice. Okay, we're back there by Joe's garage. We got that caboose is a Bachmann caboose. Yeah, this is how I started things out. I didn't like the windows when Bachmann came out, I should say. I didn't like the windows, small windows there. So I got some Rio Grande Southern windows, caboose windows from Grant Line, cut them out and stuck them on there, and distressed every board. Every board is distressed with another 11 X-Acto blade. I pulled off the handrails. I just got it down to cupola is done the same way. And that caboose, particular caboose is narrowed too. I cut out a couple boards on each side of the door and narrowed it that way. And it fit the cupola. I didn't have to do anything to the cupola, but I lowered the roof a little bit by 1/8 of an inch, and also lowered it by putting different trucks on it. And it just looks more On30-ish, more narrow, with the Dick Andrews extra narrow gauge, right? It's extra narrow gauge. It's smaller than 3 foot. So just give a little bit between 2 foot and 3 foot. On30 works out. The locomotive behind it is that's Gusta Winthrop's locomotive. He's the CEO of the railroad, and he had that restored so he could go cruising around having a good time in it with it. And the name came from, we're out in Maine at the Augusta show, went back a couple of years ago, the narrow gauge show, and I look up and there's a sign that says Augusta Winthrop, 2 cities. And, man, that'd be a good name to call somebody, you know. So that's the president of the line. And this guy, the people in the back are the same people you saw before, except for the gas tank gas pump fell over. It looks like, if you can see that, but I just noticed that now. Boy, see, that's what I'm talking about. A photograph.
That camera will get you every time.
Every time. That's what I'm talking about. You know, it'll be there forever. You know, I can't change that. I can change it on a layout. I cannot change it in the photo. So, but yeah, that's a Bachmann one. All I did is put letters on the tender. It's done really nice. A little kind of what is it? How would you say? Geez, 1890s, you know, 1860s, 1870s, the Gilded area or something. There it is, right there. All I did is put the letters on the side with letter set. The combines behind it, you saw it before. This is around a curve. There's a curved module. I like to call it coming down right there from Bald Mountain, which is an area in Oakland County here, just northeast of me where I used to live. Really not a mountain, it's just a hill. But you got to have something out there like that. And it's going to get ready to cross the bridge. That is the corner module. And that was a lot of fun. How do I get the hills in the back was all done with foam. Everything's on foam, by the way, except for the framework on it. And it makes it lightweight to get around. And even if you got to move it in the house or so. But yeah, just the trees, I had to get it on. I wanted to have, like, out here, that's the way it is. You got a lot of foliage, a lot of green stuff, especially in the summer. Wintertime, not so much. But, you know, it's spring to fall, it's nice. And this is basically kind of like a late summer more than a spring or a fall where you have all the color changes. Although I've been thinking about maybe getting the airbrush and hitting a couple of them with some different colors, like they're just starting to change. I probably shouldn't have said that because somebody else is going to do it, but they can do it. That's the whole thing. It's inspiration and ideas. Okay. That's the way we like to work. So if somebody else is going to do it, go right ahead. Have at it. Have fun. Have fun with it. This is over in Gary Kohler's meet. And this is the Bachmann 260 with a decoder in it. This is before their decoders came out. I think it was a year later they came out with a 260 with the decoder. And there you have Osceola Station, and the building behind it is I think it's
That's the Perkins?
No, it's Banta, the Chillery Cafe. Okay, now what I did is because I knew this is going to be moved around a lot, I put the stairway, instead of having a real fragile one there, I kind of enclosed it. So it could get bumped, and I don't have to be repairing this every 10 minutes or so. So and that's Sage's General Store, named after Newell Sage, one of the guys that lives out in Connecticut that makes it to the Mid-Hudson meet. And he did the artwork of the sign for it. I don't have a picture of it, but I should have one, but there's other pictures of it around. But yeah, that's going around the corner now. The engine of the module, you see right about where the crossheads are in the locomotives, that little line coming out. Can you see that off the track? That's where the module ends. The two of them come together. Try to cover it up a little bit, but hey, after moving it around here and there, it's hard to do that. And a super sage tree on the left there, dead one. Actually, I never got around to putting anything on it, but people like, oh, that's pretty unique. Okay, I left it there. They like it, I'll leave it there. That's good enough. Gives me some credence on that. But yeah, that's I'm trying to think who I got that off of. Bought it off of somebody. I think it was over at your meet, Alan, but I can't think of who it was. Only met him a couple times. But yeah, that's there. And then, okay, here we got the ON2 engine that's been converted over to ON30. I got this off of Dillon, which I really liked. I really wanted to have. This is at the Sandy River 6, which became the WWF 9. And it's ON30. It runs good. I put a Tsunami 2 in it because it was a smaller decoder. And I tell you, getting in there was a little rough. You think it'd be easier, but the motor goes all the way to the back of the tender. This is not built like the Bachmann ones, you know, where the motors are into the back head and over the boiler or into the boiler. This is the back wheel driver has the gear in it, and it was remotored So it had an open frame motor in it. Now it's got a can motor in it, but it runs really well. And the combine behind it was another thing that the big idea, another great idea, Dan. Let's change the windows and doors over and make it look like the Sandy River windows and baggage doors, right? Boy, that was a lot of work. The combine was the shortest because it has less windows. Now, when I started cutting them out, I'm already gone beyond the point of no return. I put a window in there and it was like about 1/16 of an inch short of being tall. So I had to go and fill it all in with green putty. And then that wasn't the bad part. The hard part, there's lines that went up the side, wood going all the way up to the letterboard. That had to be filled in. Now, this wasn't bad. The 2 coaches I did, no, that was a whole other story. I mean, that was really bad. I did 2 coaches and I said, I'm going to do the combine. This won't be that bad. And it wasn't. I'm happy with it. But yeah, I've got 2 coaches done the same way and narrowed. They're narrowed and they're lowered. And you can tell there's just one step on the platform there instead of the 2. The 2 would stick out too much. So you can just narrowing it down to 6 foot by removing those 2 boards on either side of the doors and splitting the roof down the middle, taking 1/8 of an inch out of that, put it together, and then get the green putty out or whatever kind of you want in there and just sand it down, put it in there, fit it. And I threw tissue paper over it with Flowquill grimy black. And the reason solvent paints work the best because you attack the plastic and it just adheres the tissue right to the plastic rather than trying to glue it down or so. Not so much with the acrylic paints because acrylics can be just washed off or peeled off of the plastic, the styrene. So, but it's an old beat up one. It's poor old and neglected, that's the name of the railroad. So nothing is really new. Nothing really runs new there. In fact, even the guy right there standing up pointing, he's the guy, back from the monogram kit. And I am in the cab right here, but that is the Tibbet, Paul Tibbet's figure from the B-29. And somehow, I don't know how this happened, but the head got lopped off and I had it around, I was gonna glue it back on. But then I got these 3D prints from Les that were deformed. The head was good, the body, but there's an arm shriveled up and there's a leg missing or something. And so I just took the head and put it on this one. And wow, there's a picture of me leaning out the cab. Now Les is going, well, how does this guy look? So here it starts another thing, right, Les? We got to have a guy leaning out of the cab. So I pulled him out and he's basically straight. His back is straight, his legs are straight because he was in the cab of that B-29. And if you know a B-29, it's all radial around that body. And he was leaning out, so he's pretty straight. Well, you can't, it just happens, this locomotive, it fits. It doesn't fit in any other ones because the detail inside, there is no backhead on it. It's just a piece of brass over the shaft of the motor. And so he came up with Alan Littlefield leaning out now. So we got a guy leaning out of the cab, and I've been painting those up, by the way. I'm almost done with those. As I look over, I just got a few bennies to do. Ben Pools that he's been sent the newest stuff, but I've got those, and I got those for your corpse there, Les. So you can get some more to me. I'll get them for you before even at mid hustle we can stick them on or change them out so you can see what they look like.
Don't forget to mention our friend in the combine there.
Well, that's
Newell. Yeah,
that's Newell. Yeah, that's Newell. That's right. That's Newell Sage. There he is, dressed up in his vest, and Newell's pretty good at getting dressed up and stuff. I tell you, he used to. I guess he was in some reaction, not reactionary, or what would it be? Yeah, where they dress up and play games like cosplay things. But he used to make all these uniforms. He had a real nice coat and tails, looked like the Undertaker. And
we've got that scan too.
Oh yeah. I mean, the guy's great at this stuff. So we see there's a lot of talent that shows up there, and they always inspire somebody to do something else. And that's what's really great about it. The big inspiration of that meet is I just can't say anything more about it, or anything bad about it. There's a lot good to go out of it. But that's what that is, and that's I think the building behind it is. Oh, that's Full Circle, Chris Bones. Now I got these modules where I can switch buildings and it looks like different towns. A little secret too I'm giving out. I probably shouldn't. I mean, I got pictures of the same place with 5 different depots. And they're 5 different towns. I changed the wagon, the Joe's Garage is sitting where that building behind it is right now. That I took that out and put that there to make it look different. And on the other side of the street of that is Sage's store, but that's not there now to make it look different. You know, and you don't see the water tank there. It's a different water tank too. I just, building models. What are you going to do with them? I don't have the room to do all this, So you got to just compromise. Okay, let's make different scenes out of it. Call another town, put other people around it, take it from a different angle, and there it is. You have fun with it,
And this could very well be a picture on the front of the Gazette as a painting.
Yeah.
We're going back to art, guys. The composition, the colors, the look and the feel. These things. This is art. It may move at times, and it may not move at times. But every piece on this has a form of art, whether it's in 3-dimensional or 3 dimensions or 2. So this, you're placing figures, you're creating the infamous golden triangles, and yep, absolutely.
Right. It is. You're right, Alan. We are basically artists. Oh, here's another shot of the number one. Now this is coming around the corner. The last one's going the other way. This is going the other to the right now. And you got the road crew out there. They're doing taking out ties and stuff, redoing, and that's Augusta Winthrop's train going through up Bald Mountain now. I kind of tilted the camera a little bit to make it look like it's going up grade, and the curve also helped it out too. And there's it's just there it is, something different. I don't know how many pictures I have of this of the 8 modules, and they all look it's a different thing going on, different camera angle. I've got videos where the train went by, I backed it up, moved the camera over another 4 inches, faced it the other way, and had the train running by like it's down. Now you're down the railroad, you caught it again, and then I go around the other side, back it up again to get a longer shot of it. So they're basically the same train going through. And with the NCE, it's really great because you put the brake on 7, and when you hit 6, it goes back to speed. So when you bring it back and you stop it and you hit it again, take the brake off, and it gets up to the same cadence count on the drivers. So it sounds like it's just still going. It's not like there's a change in that anywhere. And that's part of the secret with it too, to really kind of, make it stand out a little bit. Wow, that's really kind of neat. Well, you just got to think a little bit outside of the box and how you can do it. When you find out how you manipulate these things, it's a lot of fun. It's just a good way of doing it. Making a video. I mean, I don't know how many videos I got. Some of them are the outtakes, like trains going down the road and derails, car derails, something's wrong with it. I don't know what happened to it, but it derailed, hit a joint somewhere else behind it, and all of a sudden it's now clogging. It's hitting the ties right now. Oh, well, we back it up, put it on, make another one. I got a lot of outtakes. That's what I'm transferring over now on the new computer I got, having fun doing that. Oh, I got to keep those. The mistakes. You got to have the mistakes, you got to have them. You got to record them, man. That's it. Okay, this is the big railroad my buddy had in Canton. This is the 4-track main. This is talking about scenery on this, though. Those whole mountains there, there's just one flat piece of 1/8-inch plywood. Okay, and what I did, it's all just one piece. I cut it out the mountain going up and down, and then I envisioned basically, okay, this is how this mountain's going to be in front, this one's going to be in back. The different colors give it a little bit of depth, and the scenery is not anywhere near the wall. Everything is away from the wall a good 2 inches, so that when you walk by it, the background, the sky doesn't change. But it's like the old Max Fleischer cartoons. If you guys remember how they did that with the plate glass, you had one stationary, then you had the plate glasses that moved. The one in front moved faster than the one in the middle. So it looked like 3D. And that's basically what I was trying to think of here in doing that. That's a close-up shot of one, and then the bottom one is a little bit farther shot of basically the same way. Unfortunately, that railroad is down now. It's gone. But that was a lot of fun working on it. Totally, I could do a whole other show on that layout. A lot of unique things on that. So,
well, I tell you, you really ought to be proud of that, because the modeling, the creativity, the feel of the scene that you create to me is just amazing. Just no question about it.
Thank
Dan,
you.
let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Who are the people who have most influenced your modeling and help you the most learn how to build models? Who are those people?
That got me into it.
Yeah, well, they taught
say?
you how to do it. Not
Well,
just
my dad, when I was a kid, I looked up on the shadow box. So my dad got out of the army. He didn't do anything. I mean, he didn't have any TV or anything, no money. He got married. He had the kid, my brother, and then I came along, and that kind of really kind of screwed him up, I guess, you know. But he built these models, and I think they're 1/35th scale models. I don't remember. I was too young. Excuse me. But they're on the shadow box. There's two, like a Model T and I don't know, a Maxwell or something. I don't know with the people in it. And it was very crude, but I just I used to stare at those things all the time up in the shadow boxes. And hey, Dad, can I play with? No, you can't play with those. Not those. No, not that. Okay. So, but then when I got old enough, we started building. He started showing me, you got this kit. Okay, this is how you do this. Sit down and do it. I'd watch him. Well, can I do something? He goes, yeah, okay. And of course, you're 4 or 5 years old. You know, it was a learning thing, and he just threw the kid away or whatever. We did it after I went to bed, tried to make it look better. But
right.
he influenced me a lot. And then, like I said, that catalog I saw really got me into doing the scenery. But as I was growing up, Railroad Model Craftsman magazine, to me, was the better magazine, it seemed, with the layouts and how they were and the pictures and how they described them. They're all black and white. There wasn't too many color photos in those days. And I was just impressed with that. And I can't remember the guys, of course, John Allen, Alan McClellan, and there's a few other ones out there that just blew me away with their stuff. And that's when I started thinking, I got to do this. I got to try this at least try it. What have got to lose, you know? But everything to gain. So I just kept working on it, and here we go. And then I met other people, like I say, my buddy Dave. I met him, and we were working together. He was putting a LaBelle wooden coach together. If you ever put O-scale, 2-rail. I don't know if you ever put those together. They were pretty good. I mean, it's all wood. And you had to do the clear story, ends on it. You had to clear that. You had to round them off. And the unique thing about this, I started looking at what he was doing. Instead of just putting glass in all the way across the whole board, he would take one window and put little channels in there and drop the slide glass in.
Yeah.
Every one was like that. So when the car went down the road, the glasses kind of moved a little bit and the light hit them differently. Wow, it looked like an old coach that the windows weren't really sealed up anymore. They were just rattling. I mean, how many times you've been in one of those? Well, I don't know, but you go in there now at the old car, the tourist railroads, and they kind of do that. If you can feel it, but that was a detail. He inspired me a lot. He was a great scratch builder, did a lot of scratch building. It's unbelievable. In fact, when he passed away, we go down to his basement, and he had more Grant Line windows and doors and corbels and everything else. It was like a whole wall about 40 feet long on the pegboards, and he had them all there. And he just said, "Okay, I need this, and just start building these buildings out of styrene." And he even got into doing molds, silicone molds with plaster. And he's done. That's when I met him, when he was doing that stuff too. And that's when I got involved with noticing Tom York. Okay, and he was doing this stuff too. And I'm like, wow, man, this is where I got to be, and then through him you meet other people, and and that just once again it inspires everything, and well, here's the boys. This is Mid Hudson right here. That's the gang.
That's
Les's wife was there. We take a picture outside. Okay, let's get all the curmudgeons out there. And I told Ann, I says, look, just I want everybody, just don't stand there. I want you to do something. And Ann, you just take as many pictures as you can with the camera. Well, everybody's doing something except for Jim Lenhart in the middle. He's kind of looking around going, what's going on? Funny guy. The guy's a great modeler too. Unfortunately, he's gone with us now. He's not with us anymore. But that's the gang. That's part of the gang.
That's fantastic. Let me ask you
this. I love that gift, man. I love that. It's just makes me laugh every time because you start looking at different people, what they're doing, and they're all doing something different. That's what I wanted to do. Do something different. So you have to look at this more than once. twice.
Gotta send that
Three
to, you gotta send that to the Mid Hudson site, because I never saw that before in
Oh,
Mac.
really? Okay. Yeah, I know you got a still up there on the headmast there, but yeah, I'll send that to you. Yeah, and it can, that'll be it. Larry, look, Larry Rickards there, and back at Clem on the right there. He's gone now too, and it's just. But most of the guys are there. There's Newell right next to
Dave Camasillas there.
yeah, next to Jim and Les between them there. You got to see how he dressed. He looks like an engineer. That's the way he shows up. That's the way they dress. You put a hat on, you swear you come off the railroad. But yeah, that's a great bunch of guys, all talented. Every one of them has got something to contribute. It's phenomenal. It's really great to be around these guys.
Dan, we've seen some beautiful modeling that you've done. Let me ask you this.
Sure.
When you finish a model and you sit back and you look at it, you may take a photo of it and you're studying it. How do you know in your heart that model is finished and it's done, nothing else to do on it? How do you know that?
Well, that's kind of hard because I weathered a 1948 Ford pickup truck. Everybody knows what they look like. I did it. I sprayed it, dull coated it. Okay, I didn't like the shine on it. A couple of months later, looked at it and said, I got to do something else to it here. So, okay, let me get some of this alcohol and ink wash and do some black thing so I could pick up with the details. Well, later on, I looked at it, and that alcohol attacked the dull coat, and it looked like steel almost, like it was pouring. It was fading out. The paint was fading out, and I said, okay, this is like a couple months later. Now, about 6 months later, I pick it up again. I look at it, there's needs some rust around. It's got to have the magic ring around the wheel wells. So I got out the rust paint. I got out the browns. I did this and did that, touched it all the way around it. And it took me about a year to do that. But a lot of times I'll finish one and it'll be there. Okay, that's good enough. Other times I'll look at it. No, I got to do something more to it. So some of them get done and some of them don't. Some of them are probably still in the process right now of being not finished. I look at it now, I can do something else to this and make it look a little bit better. Somebody else will inspire me, or I'll see something and that'll happen that way. This is the corner right here coming out of what I call Ball Mountain, going up Ball Mountain. That's how it was all done. Foam, 2-inch foam, the pink foam, the white stuff in the middle looks like cream, like a cookie, a pressed cookie. That's foam putty from Woodland Scenics. It's really good stuff. And I cobble it up first, and then I'll take the hot wire, kind of cut it a little bit, and then sand it down to smooth it all out. Now the top looks flat. That was still in the process. That's not glued down yet, so I'm still in the process of doing that, and that's how it turned out. So you can see from the ugly duckling to the nice swan here, and over to the left there you can see that's between the two modules right there. You can see the line going out there. The scrub brush and stuff, trying to cover up that, which I put a little flap on it.
Yeah.
It flapped up and it comes down over, kind of covers up the other one. That didn't fare well in transportation either. So, that's why it's not. This is on the other side now. This is coming around the back side of that one, coming around, and this is like going through not a cut. Well, yeah, a cut, but it's been a while, so it's not really. It's kind of worn down over the years and washed out. And a lot of flowers, wildflowers going around it. I live in a rural area. I get out here, and 5 minutes away from here, I'm in the country, and I drive around, look at the road, and how the stuff is on a road, how it grows, because it'll do the same thing on the railroad. I mean, you look down the track, that's the same thing, but you can see more as you drive down the road. So I kind of threw that together. Oh, these wildflowers on the edges. Yeah, they grow. Yeah, that's it. Put those there. Oh, yeah, that looks pretty good. Yeah, okay, put some other colors in there too, okay, because they're different colors, they're everywhere, so that you got to get the blend. The colors got to really matter, but it doesn't matter. You don't have to plan them out. The grass, static grass is never one color, never one length. I use a couple different colors, and every length from 2 millimeter to 7 millimeter, I think is the tallest now, maybe even more now. But when I did this, that was about it. So it gives the depth of the field. It's a 3D thing there. It's just not like a cut lawn. I don't like cut lawns or golf courses, basically. They look nice in real life, but to me on a railroad, that goes back to the days of the 4x8 table with lifelike sawdust. Remember that stuff, guys?
Yep.
The
Absolutely.
green and the brown, right?
Yeah.
And then the trees were toothpicks and steel wool, or whatever, So it's come a long way on this, and that's why I want to keep going on this. Now this is back on the big layout again. Depth of field. This is on the 4-track. On the left, on the back, let's go to top left, is the water tank and the water bridge. They had those on the Pennsylvania Railroad. I don't know who, I think Custom Brass made those. And some of them, we had 2 of them on there, but Dave needed more signal bridges, which they didn't make. So he bought a whole bunch of, about 10 or 12 of those, and we unsoldered the spouts. And I've got, in fact, that's what's on my water tank in the station there, the steel one there. That spout is on, one of those spouts are on there, because what are you going to do with them, right? Well, make a water tank. That's it. And on the top right now is the building that's to the left of it. That's like the shed that the guy looks at, and make sure that the water pump's working and everything else. And that is right there. And behind there's a flat piece of wood. Once again, the 1/8 plywood is covered with paper towels. And these paper towels had nylon running crisscross through it, and really strengthened them up. I don't think they make them anymore, because this is back, and I think it was in the 80s. They're not going to make it anymore. So everybody bought like boxes of these things. Everybody in the club bought boxes of these things, and they're great. It's not like a regular paper towel fall apart and you got all this stuff around. We use Ultracal on that stuff, which is the lath stuff. When you look at lath boards in old buildings, and they got the boards running horizontal, and you look inside, and you got that gray stuff that comes out that's kind of pushed out. That's Ultracal, and that does real well. When you wet it down, you can put plaster on it, and it really holds it. They bond, and that's what we were using here. Now the mountains, I was sitting down just to the right of that picture on the right, on the top right. I was looking at one day. I got a quart of my favorite brew, sitting back. It's after hours. I'm just kind of sitting back looking. I said, I got to make something. How can I do this? And it got to me. Okay, woodland scenics clump foliage. I started pulling them apart real small and started putting them on the top. And then it came down to the side where you see the greenery right now, the foliage behind that, the shed is basically that. Those are all little green clumps of that. And to the left, we got the communication post coming up. Well, that was good, but I wanted to have it a little bit different. So what we did is we split up put another board in front of it, which is the bottom one, brought it forward a little bit, and I started making telephone poles. And the one O scale, then the next one, it could be S scale. I was just looking at it. The one way in the back you can hardly see is a toothpick. And it kind of gives that sense of depth through it. It's going, through the mountains there. Yeah. And if you look on that one mountain on the bottom left there, that's one of the castings that we used at the club. And it just happened to be like a coal seam going through it. So I painted it with, looking like coal more than anything else. And that's a little bit of that illusion stuff that I talk about. It's just to give you that illusion of depth. And none of it is against the wall. You can see on the top left the shadow of the tank on the wall. And also on the bottom one, you can see the mountain shadow on the wall. So that goes to show you how it's not right next to it. We wanted to have it so if you got to the edge, you can look around. It went over instead of going right up to the mountain or the scenery and stop. You see a lot of that. And we wanted something different, something way different than that. So that's the story on those 3.
Well, I'll tell you, it's just beautiful. It's so creative. The creativity is just amazing to me.
Yeah. This is the difference between the 2 cars. I was talking about the windows. The bottom one is the stock one, just painted up, and the top one is with the Sandy River windows in it. And I know you can't really zoom up on it, but those vertical pieces of wood on each side of the window were short. Even the tops of them were short. I had to fill them all in. And that's when there's 22 or 23 on a coach all the way around. And I made 2 of them. And that's why I was glad to see the combine come up, because there was only like 11. Wow. I was getting really, really frustrated. Okay, here's the difference between the 2. Narrowed and lowered on the right. I see that it might have had something going on with this party or something like that going on. He kind of got wild with the brake wheel, but gee, there's another thing about the photos, right? You'll always see it. And the one on the left is the stock Bachmann car. So you can see the 2 steps on there, how it is, and then only 1 step on the right. So that's more like a 2-footer. My favorite gauges are 2 and 3 foot. So 30 inches was a good compromise right between them both. I like that. It's a good thing. Here's the cabooses again. These are, this is a different one. Oh, no, they're the same one you saw in the other one. This is the windows from Grant Line on the right there, the number 2 car. They're all distressed and it's lowered. The cupola is lowered by 1/4 of an inch. And the one on the left, I wanted to change the windows a little bit. Same procedure, but different type of windows. This 4-pane window instead of just the pull up. And they're lowered, they're narrowed. I got into this narrowing thing. Alan Carroll inspired me to do that. And I said, damn it, I can do it. I asked him a few questions about it. Oh, yeah, it's easy. Yeah, Alan, everything was easy. and he said, hey, oh, that's easy. Oh, geez. Well, then you start playing with this thing and you go, oh, man, well, okay, I got to do it. I'm committed to it. I'm going to have to do it. So, and that's half the fun. And then when those cars are finished, by the way, okay, they're done. I'm not doing any more on them. Maybe put another battery in there for the lights, but that's it.
What advice would you give to a new modeler coming into the hobby?
Well, start small. Number 1, build an outhouse, build a shed. I mean, that'll get you going on how to put things together, framework, what it takes. And if you want to do it wood by wood, if you want to be scratch building this, that's the way to do it. And go bigger than that. If you're too intimidated by that, then go out and get a kit, put it together. Start with a plastic one, small one. Don't get one of these big ones, the big conglomerate ones. You like a refinery or a big coal mine or anything. Start with a depot, small depot or a small shed, and take your time doing it. Think about it. You got to have patience. That's number 1 in the hobby. You got to have patience because you just won't do it. You get frustrated, you leave it alone. I've done that, come back again with a couple of weeks later, and it's just as happy when I left it. When I got back, it wasn't mad at me because I left it for a couple of weeks. It was just there. It's not finished, and I've got a few of them around that still aren't finished. I'm wondering about them as it is right now, but I'll get them done. Little by little. Sometimes you get distracted. Well, paint's got to dry, glue's got to dry. Well, wait a minute. Let me think about this when you start working on something else. Yeah, you know how that goes, guys. Come on. I'm not the only one. I know that. But
do research.
And the research is number 1. Number 1. Especially when you're scratch building something. You got a kit. That's already said. It's done. You're going to do that. But doing the research is a lot of fun. When we were building that big layout, my buddy, every April, we'd go out to Pennsylvania and observe the 4-track. And our base was Orbisonia, Mount Union, that area. And that's where we would stay. He had a motor home. And we'd go up and down the 4-track and just see where Jack's Tower was. Now, MG Tower, mid-grade, going into Altoona. We spent 4 years going there, 4 different trips. And he built this model. I don't know what happened to it. It really kind of upsets me. I don't know what happened to this thing. I mean, the levers and everything were in there. And it was just perfect. Got up, snuck up, got things up, took pictures inside, took measurements. And what are you going to do? Well, you got to do the research to it. I think it was beautiful. One, I think best of show in one contest, some O-scale contest, one of the meets, I think. But you got to do the research. And going out to see it, like we go out there in the summertime, you look around, the foliage is out there, but you don't see the railroad. You don't see the contours of the earth. And doing that with the scenery, that adds to it. That really adds to it when you get as close as you can. We had a horseshoe curve there, so to speak, because we had to enter the room and it had to come around. We were running 8-foot radiuses on this thing, on the 4-track. The center being 8 foot, and it went out, and went down, and went out. And it really looked good. And the ties were 17/64 because it was 5-foot gauge. Right? O-scales, 5-foot gauge. And it just made it look like 4 foot 8.5, like Proto 48. People, wow, you look at that track and they, wow, how'd you do that? Well, you got to cheat. You got to cheat a little bit. Use the 1/43 scale track, because that's what it is. The ties are too small if you use the regular ones, 48 scale. They're just too short, a little bit too short. But yeah, the research is everything. But and that's when you do that, you'll be a lot happier doing ending up with the project. And you don't have to get real anal on it, do it exactly like it, but as long as you get a thought and a plan in your head and how you want it to look, to me, it's halfway done. You got it halfway done doing that. What do you think, Alan?
Yeah, research. I mean, like I say, the latest thing I did was plans, nice scale drawings showed up in the Friends Timber Transfer magazine.
Mm-hmm.
And there was questions I had about it, and I contacted the people there, Lee Riley himself and a couple of the others that were working there, and they said that all of them were painted black. That every one of the wooden ones were black, and different things like that. So there's research to be done to get it to look right, because it's, you know, there's a way to look right and a way to look kind of not right. But yeah, research is fun because you learn a lot of history too. You find out other things that you might not do with the trains, but just new knowledge that you have about how things went together. You know,
finding out something on the way to find something else. You know, It's the journey. Okay, it's like right, Les, you did those that tank engine and Matilda there. I know you did research on that stuff.
Oh yeah. I think having an interest in something is important. The research in if you're going to model something that's prototype, the trees behind you, Dan, are indeed prototype at some point in time. You've seen them. I tend to model the Southwest, even though I live in Virginia. I model the Southwest, so a lot of the times I'm out there, I take hundreds of pictures, so that when I do have to paint or I do have to color wood, I know what that wood looks like.
Right.
I take a lot of pictures. I collect a lot of pictures of age buildings, ghost towns, so that
post a lot of those too.
And I take a lot of them. And so that's really important when you look at how something is weathered. When you see the brown color of the door, or you see the tree, how it's colored in the middle of the summer versus how it's at the early spring. The rock along your track behind you, is that fresh rock? So research is very important, so that when you do it, you're not just going through the motions, but you're trying to do it right.
Do you think that doing that, like what you do out in your area, is a lot easier than doing what I'm doing?
No, I don't think it is. The minimal
I don't
work,
think so either.
The minimal work is actually more exposure than putting trees and brush and grass up. I'm risking a lot more.
I think we mentioned about advice to a new modeler. You can add that, what we're just talking about. Find a little building that you like, take some good photos of it all around, make some measurements, get some color shots. And then try to copy it. And usually in art, that's a bad word. You don't copy it. Be creative, come up with something new. Copy these things and see how close you can get to it. And that gets you started. And you get something you like then, and you've achieved it. And then that leads you to something else. You can say, well, gee, that turned out nice. How about I do something here, maybe a bigger building with an interior or something? But do that.
Start small and go big,
and get that good photo, good color photos, and then every reference. Like what Dan has done a lot of is a sepia tone shot.
There you go.
It look like it came right out of an old history book, or somebody found a bunch of photos in an attic. And you go, oh, they're real. Like it's remarkable how that changes them. But yeah, take photos, do that. You'll be all right. If you're interested, it'll take you there. If you're not, go to something else.
Whether it's a train or it's a military model. If you're building a tank or you're making a model airplane or a model car. It's
Yeah.
all about understanding how it looks and how you want it to be.
Yep.
Okay.
And a lot of
Dan-
things too. Excuse me, one more thing. Well, another thing about you talking about model cars and I was talking about that 48 pickup. Well, the shine, see, that has something to do with scale too. If you're close, it's shiny, but when you get farther away, the atmosphere kind of dulls it down a bit. You know, you'll so everything, you know, everything isn't shiny in life. You know, if you look out there across an area, there's not too much shine coming off anything unless it's brand new and the sun has to hit it. But the atmosphere gives it that scale look too. Yeah, that's another thing to look at too. Is you know, dulling it down a little bit. You know, using flat paints rather than gloss paints all the time.
So Dan, at
Okay.
this stage of your life, where are you going from here in your modeling?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to know. I really don't want to know. Right there, that's where I want to be. I want to be in the train set. Okay, I want to be looking at me doing this. This is a photograph. I figured, well, what does it look like when that little lady's looking at me? You know. Okay, let's get a picture of that. So it actually comes out to be like a bad Saturday night monster movie or something like that. You know, those 1952 ones. You know, or picking up, you know, running around. Oh, look at that, the giant lady. You know, 50-foot woman or whatever.
Dan, you can do that picture with you looking at you.
You know that. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, maybe a couple of them. You know, couple of I got running away, couple running away. Yeah,
Dan, I like your angel wings that keep appearing and vanishing.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what that is? This is an aura around me, my modeling aura. You like that? You know, see if I can get them going here. Look at this. Hey, woo, woo, woo.
I read them as angel wings.
Okay, I'll go with that.
Well, guys, we've got to pretty well close this up for today, but I want to ask Les and Alan for any last comments that you want to make to Dan.
Hey, Dan, we have to figure out the next step. You're doing the figures. You're painting them now, so I don't have to do that anymore.
That's
We got
right.
better quality figures. So we've got the new ABS resin. What's the next step?
I like that ABS resin too. I tell you, it's the supports come off very well, very nice. They're not as brittle when you first started doing this stuff. Not you, but when I first started seeing 3D printing, I mean, it was brittle. The stuff was really break it. It just broke. You know, well, you got to cut them off. Yeah, okay. I tried doing that. It doesn't work. You know, but this ABS stuff is really nice, and it paints up well too. It holds the primer and everything else very well. Well, you saw that one picture of me sitting the bump on the log, what I call them. You know, that's the latest one.
My point here this year is to build crews for the engines. So rather than just a pose, it would be nice to be able to sell or give away an engineer and a fireman and a conductor,
right,
and something else, so that you
doing
have
different things, you know, just in different positions.
And we're well on that way. I'm looking each time to figure out what figures we need that are different, but I'm also in the middle of building other parts. So I made a leap this year in adding texture to the wood structures.
Yeah, I saw that. That's nice. That's real nice.
I've figured out a way to do that, texturing in a 3D print. So we're getting there.
I've actually took the X-Acto blade to a couple 3D boxes and stuff that were just to make it stand out a little bit more, you know, that didn't have the detail in it. But where you're going with this, that'll save a lot of time for me.
Yep.
Alan, how about you? What's your final words for Dan?
Well, just keep soldiering on like we've been. It's working so far. So let's see, stay the course. Stay the course.
I'm trying to stay on it all the way. I'm really looking forward to April too. We're going to have some fun there.
Oh yeah.
Once again.
Yep.
It comes up so fast and then it goes so quick. But
before you know it, it's gone.
Absolutely.
Another 10-hour drive, you know.
You gotta get some girlfriends on the way, you know, or something.
Hey, well, yeah, maybe I'll have to stop by Mount Union or something, huh? Williamsport or something. I don't know.
The word is EBT 16.
Yeah.
That's what we're working
Yeah.
on.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, I bought that brass engine from Sunset way back in the early 80s, and the thing never ran. When I got there, it wasn't running. Oh, man, you know, but it'll be good seeing it run. You know, what's the difference between that and a 17? Nothing but the number, but at least you know it's the original 16,
Yeah.
you know, so,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm looking
And
forward to
Dan, you get the final word.
Well, I want to say thanks to my friends here that showed up, and I'm sorry that John couldn't make it, but then he was missed bigly. And I want to thank you very much for having me on the show here, and I really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. And if anybody's got any questions, just I got a page, the PO and the Poor Old and Neglected Railway. It's a Facebook page. Get on it. You want to ask me some questions? I got all kinds of videos and photos there. Check it out. And thank you for having me here. I really appreciate that, John.
Well, I appreciate you coming, and it's been my honor to be able to be with you this evening and to hear you talk about your modeling and how you accomplish what you do. It's
at least somebody's listening here. Usually when I sit around, nobody wants to hear it, you know. They start talking about something else. Oh, by the way, do you see? Oh, yeah, okay, I'll be quiet.
I have the same problem, Dan.
Yeah, I think we all do, tell you the truth, you know. Or here he comes. Don't start talking about trains, whatever you do, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for being here this evening. We really appreciate it. And I think everybody has learned an awful lot from you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. And thank you, all of you for being with us this evening on our YouTube channel. I hope you've enjoyed meeting Dan and his friends. I know I certainly have, and I've learned a lot. And if you listen to him and you hear what he's talking about and the creativity and the imagination that he puts into his modeling, it can't help but help all of us improve how we think about our own modeling. I hope that you'll want to go to our YouTube channel, New Tracks Modeling, and subscribe to it so you don't miss any of these shows. The Modeling Lifestyle is only available for you to be able to view live on YouTube, as well as later on be able to see the videos of these shows on our YouTube channel. And by subscribing, you'll make sure that you'll get notices of when they're coming out and be able to make sure you don't miss any of them. Likewise, I hope that you'll also subscribe to our website, New Tracks Modeling, to get the login links for all of our Wednesday shows, where we have different people share their experiences and their knowledge about how they achieve the modeling that they do. And I think you might find that very interesting. Naturally, I hope you'll consider a donation to help us pay the out-of-pocket costs for doing these shows. And last but not least, I hope that you'll tell the young people about our new scholarship program. We're really enthusiastic about that and hope that we get an awful lot of applicants this year for the scholarship, because that'll demonstrate the real need for it. And we believe that the students out there who are growing up in the hobby, as many of us did, are in need of help to get through school. And this is our first step. And we hope that we'll be able to take many more in the future. So your support is much needed, and hope that you'll notify all the potential applicants about the program so that they'll be able to take advantage of it. Again, thanks so much for being here this evening. I truly hope that you enjoyed meeting Dan and his friends and learning about modeling from them. So till next time, thank you.